Jesus stopped dying on the cross long enough to answer the prayer of a thief. Jesus stopped in a big crowd one day because someone touched the hem of his garment. Jesus will stop to touch our lives, change us, forgive us, if we but let him. Amen. Pastor Rick Warren once observed, "You may not think you have a good memory, but you always remember what is important to you." Memories. They are moments we carry in our souls. They make our hearts sing or cry, or if we are really lucky, they challenge us. Now, most memories we experience firsthand. We are bodily present, right there, fully aware of what is going on when the moment happens. Yet, equally important are memories that are gifted to us by others. One day outside my children's grade school, a stranger approached. She introduced herself and explained she was a teacher who had been on recess duty that day, and while doing that job, one of the students had a massive epileptic seizure on the playground. And naturally, the 100 children there became fully aware and circled up and gathered around the action. They watched as medics arrived, loaded their friend onto a stretcher, and took him away in an ambulance. Then, when the mass of children began to drift, suddenly a voice shifted them and shouted out, "Stay." The teacher then explained that voice that called out was your son. He got all the children to circle up again, join hands, and then he encouraged each one to say a single word, a wish, for their injured friend. And then he ended that time with a prayer. She said, "I will forever remember that moment. Somehow Zach got everyone to stop at the right time and in the right way." Jesus Christ always managed to stop at the right time and in the right way. Read through Luke and see how this is true in chapter 2. When the Passover festival was over, Jesus' parents headed out of town home, but the tween Jesus stopped at the temple so he could sit with his teachers and talk. In chapter 3, Jesus stopped at the Jordan River, took the time to mark himself as God's own forever before even beginning his ministry. In chapter 4, Jesus went into the desert for 40 days, and when the devil arrived to tempt him, trick him, ask bad questions, Jesus stopped Satan dead in his tracks with pithy answers. That same chapter, when a demon-possessed man shouted out, "Go away," Jesus stopped what he was doing instead and healed him. And after that, he stopped at Peter's mother-in-law's house to heal her of a fever. Word spread about his power, so Jesus stayed put, healed a multitude of people, and then finally at the end of chapter 4, as day broke, we're told Jesus stopped before he even began his day to find a solitary place and pray. Again and again, across Luke, across all the Gospels, Jesus regularly and intentionally stops, knowing and modeling that living a life of faith means carving out time to pray, to heal, to teach, to eat, to love, to challenge others. We all still have over a month to go before the new calendar year begins, but today the church year comes to an end. And so we celebrate with this feast day called Christ the King. Now, remember, this is not an ancient festival like Easter or Christmas. This one is less than a century old, crafted by Pope Pius XI in 1925. Remember, during that time, Adolf Hitler had just attempted a failed uprising, and then after his arrest spent 9 months in prison penning Mein Kampf. His fame was rising. Lenin had just died, and his protege, Joseph Stalin, had taken control. Mussolini's fascists had marched on Rome, seized power through a coup d'etat throughout Europe. Bullying, bombastic leaders had taken charge, living out loud and large their twisted beliefs. And so Pius used his power to craft a high holy day, to say, though it seems on the surface you are all in power at this hour, you are not. Christ the King. He is the one who reigns supreme. The words of his papal encyclical written in honor of that day make this perfectly clear. Jesus must reign in your minds. Jesus must reign in your wills. Jesus must reign in your hearts. Jesus must reign in your bodies and in your members, so you can be instruments of justice unto God. Perhaps when you heard today's gospel, you were appalled. On a day when we honor Jesus as Christ the King, why can't we imagine him on the throne? Why do we stop and stare at the memory of him hanging there between two thieves? Two criminals as different as night and day. Remember, the late, great Mr. Rogers once said, "The guiding philosophy of my life was given to me by one of my seminary professors. It is this: you can be an accuser or an advocate. Such is the case with the tale we hear today, as one criminal did nothing but verbally abuse Jesus while the other celebrated him and asked for nothing except, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Observe also the power of three in the text, how bystanders and rulers said to Jesus, "Save yourself." How soldiers mocked him, said to Jesus, "Save yourself." How the accuser criminal said to Jesus, "Save yourself and us." Philip Yancey explains this moment saying, love was compressed for all of history in that lonely figure on the cross who said at one point that he could call down angels at any moment on a rescue mission, but chose not to because of us. Today, we celebrate the King of Love, who at the hardest moment of his life did not take the easy way out, did not climb off the cross and say, "Look at me, I am God, I am all-powerful," but instead stayed the course. He hung and bled, instead stopped in the midst of his own pain to say, "Father, forgive them," to speak words of comfort to another. May it be so for us. As we end the church year and begin the busiest, most stressful part of the calendar year, may we remember deliberately and consistently to stop at the right time, in the right way. May we be advocates. May we stop and pray, stop and stay with those in need. Amen.
Amen.